Alright guys, so it seems like we have just got a brand new season which, well, as many of you might know from my patch notes video, is called the Haunted Wheel season, and as many of you might know as well, that means a brand new car, in this case the Mercedes-Benz 111 Vision car, is set to be released today through its brand new special event, whose requirements we got to know back when the patch notes were released. So without further delay, let's get into everything the new season has brought to us. Oh, and by the way, this Friday I will do a livestream completely maxing out my Singer 21C as well as testing it a bit on multiplayer. I know that it won't be that easy to gold, but I would like to see you there. You have the link on the first comment in case you want to turn on the notifications, but it's time to burn my tokens. But now let's get back on topic. Okay, so first of all, throughout this season we will get the Mercedes-Benz 111 Vision car special event, which has just started today, as well as the first McLaren Senna special event rerun, or at least the first one I remember in a while, which is something I guess some of you guys might be waiting for, and the Aston Martin Valourgrand, which will be starting within the upcoming weeks, since you know it's expected to be required on the Mercedes 111 special event. You have all the details on screen right now, where you can stop the video and take a screenshot if you prefer, since now I will be moving directly into the Mercedes 111 Vision special event on all the details inside of it. First of all, you need to know that this Mercedes 111 is a key car, which basically means that you will need a grand total of 265 blueprints in order to max it out up to 6 stars. Inside of this special event, you can expect to see somewhere around 70 blueprints, which are enough to grade it up to 3 stars. Not bad, despite I will have to max it out either way. The total upgrades will cost around 32 million credits, which is the usual for an A-class top tier car, and obviously you will need the usual 16 epic import parts in order to make it golden, as all cars should be. Oh, and regarding this, the Mercedes 111 special event provides you with 15 epic import parts without even counting on the last rank stage, where unless you get the top one, you won't be able to get any epic import part at all. So if you buy the Legends Pass and you have all the cards required completely maxed out, you will be able to get a completely golden Mercedes-Benz 111 out of this event, which is not bad, of course, if you have all the cards, including the Mercedes itself, completely maxed out. Tricky, but not impossible, I would say. But now, and having a look at the special event itself, we can safely say that the requirements are not insanely hard, especially if you have been playing the game for the last 1.5 to 2 years. For example, the Draco GT has been released at a couple of car hunts in the past, pretty much the same as the Aston Martin 177, the Bentley Mulliner Bacalar, and the Porsche Panamera, which, by the way, will have a car hunt starting today, so that might be your chance to lock this beast, while I will hopefully get the last epic import part required to finally gold it. Aside from those cards, we will also need the Lotus Evija, which I have to admit that has been a bit trickier to lock since it hasn't been as commonly released as all the other cards, the Pagani Huayra BC, which is a classic OG card that many people already have maxed out, and at last but not least the Aston Martin Valhalla, one of the best A-class cards ever introduced into this game, which has been moderately common on the last few years since it had a special event rerun as well as a couple of appearances in Bars of Speed events and that stuff. What I want to say is that the Valhalla is not extremely weird compared to the usual special event requirements we have to deal with, so as a whole I have to admit that these Mercedes 111 Vision special event requirements aren't extremely harsh unless you started playing this game back when Asphalt 8 was released, you know. In that case, well, yes, these requirements are quite hard, but is this Mercedes 111 Vision car actually worth the price it has? Well, let's dive into it. Well, I guess that as some of you might know, this Mercedes 111 used to have different stats back when it was announced on the patch notes, but then it was nerfed before being globally released, so it ended having slightly worse stats, especially on top speed. Now it's 3 km per hour slower, handling, now it has almost 6 points less of handling, and nitro, which is in my opinion the biggest downgrade, losing almost 24 points of nitro duration compared to the stats shared on the patch notes. Acceleration, however, remained the same, meaning that compared to all the other A-class cars, the Mercedes 111 Vision concept car still stands as a quite solid contestant on many tracks. Because if it's true that on the video comparing this car against all the other A-class kings that you have on this video description, this Mercedes loses against all the other A-class kings on tracks where they are, well, you know, the kings, the best cars, so the time gap isn't massive, so it's safe to say that this car has a quite solid consistency, which, despite it doesn't give a king status, is certainly interesting given the top speed and acceleration this Mercedes has. So in a nutshell, there are better cars than this one at specific tracks, but the time difference with this Mercedes 111 isn't absolutely massive, which makes this a balanced car yet not a king. You could spend on it and you will have a car that, despite it's not at the top in terms of performance, still will do fairly decently. But being completely honest, if I didn't have almost 1.1 million tokens to spend, I definitely wouldn't spend on this Mercedes as how it stands now. The old stats were maybe way too OP for an A-class car. I can obviously agree on that, so the nerf was quite justified in a way, but right now this Mercedes 111 Vision concept car is just not as interesting, especially given the fact that the next season we will have the chance to obtain cars like the Jaguar XJR9 through the Parts of Speed packs, which is a fairly better car than this Mercedes. So yeah, if I had tokens, I would rather spend them on the Parts of Speed. However, I completely understand that this car, especially event requirements, are not extremely hard, so many of you guys might be tempted to either try your luck with the key packs or just to spend some tokens on this car. And before you do so, let me tell you something. You will only be able to obtain the key of this Mercedes 111 from the special event if you own the car itself at max stars as well. That is expected to cost in the 30 to 35,000 tokens area, and no, if you don't have the car maxed out, you won't be able to lock it, since in order to get all the conditions on the last stage, there are conditions which are locked behind a max stars requirement. A quite bad move from Gameloft, but I guess it was absolutely obvious that it wouldn't be just that easy. Still, and since many of the required cars are relatively old as well as quote-unquote common, I honestly think there will be plenty of you guys who might have a chance to lock this Mercedes, which at the end of the day, it's another elite A-class car that will give us some tokens for a while. But you know, after providing you with all that info, I do really think you need to know before even considering to go for this Fanta can looking car. Now it's your turn. What do you think about this car? Do you think it's worth to go for it, or after the stat change, it's better to save up and look at the Parts of Speed? As always, let me know your plans and thoughts in the comment section, drop your massive like, and I will see you really soon as usual with much more asphalt content. Goodbye guys.
All the way to bottom, but I've never seen it all. It can all so we don't get attached to the current spins, no flurries. The rhythm won't worry. If you fall behind, I'll be humming till you hurry.